Hey everybody, welcome to the first episode of BassnBucks Outdoors presented by Bella Vista Community Television. Today we're going to be going out to Beaver Lake with FLW Pro Greg Bohannon, and we're going to do some bass fishing and some crappie fishing, and he's going to show you his tips and tricks for how to catch these on Beaver Lake in Rogers, Arkansas. So y'all stay tuned and see what happens.
Hey guys, Pringle FLW Pro, Greg Bohannon here today. It's December 21st and it's one of my favorite times to be on Beaver Lake. The water temperature today is 52 degrees and that does two things. That tells me that the crankbait bite on Beaver Lake should be really, really good. Those crawfish move up shallow this time of year. The fish want to feed really heavy right before it gets really, really cold. So a crankbait is an awesome thing to throw and it's one of my favorite things to throw. So December, I love being out here in December. And the other thing it does, it sets the crappie up in the brush piles and bunches them up. And so I've had a couple trips here lately, been really good. Chandler Shoemaker and I are going to go out here and see what we can find today. And I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a really good trip. So it's my favorite time to be here. It's almost Christmas time. So if you're ever wondering when I should go fishing in the Ozarks, right around Christmas, it's usually always good. Hey guys, we're gonna idle up here. This is what I'm talking about when the crappie get in the brush piles this time of year. These brush piles, usually they like about 15 to 18 feet deep. And you'll see here on my Humminbird, I got side imaging, shooting out to the side 80 feet, shooting down imaging. We're gonna look for these brush piles. So there comes a brush pile right there. There's a few fish in that brush pile. As we idle over this spot, this is a really, really good spot. I know there's some brush here. So we're gonna try to pinpoint where those crappie are set up. They kind of change areas on us a lot. So what we do, we look on this side imaging. Here comes some brush piles right here. There, those little white dots, those are our fish. Look at all these there's crappie in the top of this brush pile here. When you see all this brush pile ganged up here, you'll see the little white dots are what your fish are. Here's some fish sitting out to the side of the brush piles. There's some more. So when I see that, I'm gonna hit a mark, and that way I've got a waypoint, and we're gonna turn around and we're gonna fish for these fish. So this is a really good area. All right, guys, what I'm doing here, I've got a little Lew's light crappie rod 4-pound test. Got a little Bobby Garland jig on there. Got a 16th ounce jig head. One thing about crappie, they like something small. The light line cuts through the water good. You can't do this with heavy lines. You got to have light line, little lightweight setup. I've got the brush piles pinpoint out here. They're about 12 feet deep in the top of it. The crappie are setting above that. So I'm gonna make a long cast. I'm gonna give it about a 5 count. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. Now I'm gonna start reeling. And that should bring my bait, should fall about 1 foot per second. And so that should put that bait right above that brush pile. The crappie always sit right above the brush piles. So we'll see if we can get one to bite. There he is. That's how it works right there. You throw it, let it go 5 count down, and there, I believe that's a bass. Come here, Mr. Bass. Come here, Mr. Bass. Now you come back and see me when you get all grown up, okay? You come back and see me. Oh, there's one. Get the spot lock on the trolling motor. Good gosh, look at the size of that crappie. That is a Beaver Lake slab. Look at that. Now, if you don't think we have some good crappie in Beaver Lake, that is a really good crappie. That's probably 12.5-inch crappie, and it's awesome. Those are great eating fish, one of my favorite fish to catch. Hooked right in the top of the mouth like you're supposed to. That's what, good electronics, good spot lock trolling motor. Find those brush piles this time of year in December, this is what you get. There we go. Boy, that's a big one, another big one. All right, I'm gonna hit spot lock again. Golly, these are big ones. Awesome crappie fishing. Big old slab crappie. Big old slab, look at this. Another slab crappie. I absolutely love December. December may be the best month on Beaver Lake. Keeper number 2. Beaver Lake crappie. There he is. And that feels like a bass. Come on, little guy. We have a little bit of everything down there in those brush piles. All right, little guy, you go grow up.
Before you educate the head, try to educate the heart.
And there he is. There he is. Woo, look at there. Slow is a big key. Just winding that bait real slow, right over the top of the brush. Sometimes you're going to get hung up, but then you can kind of, after you get hung up, you kind of find the brush, and you know not to let it sink quite as deep, because the crappie always sit above those brush piles. There he is. Right above that brush pile. Decent one. They've got to be 10 inches to keep here on beaver, and I've been catching a pretty good amount of 10-inch crappie, at least 10 inches. The cool thing is a lot of them are like this or bigger than that. There we go. That'd be a keeper crappie on Beaver Lake. Cool thing is you can set up with that Ultrex, stay right lined up on your brush pile all the time. That is a cool piece of equipment. Ultrex, Humminbird side imaging, the right Lew's rod and reel. Man, you're ready to go crappie fishing. All right. There we go. Yeah, there's a big one. That's a big one. Man, look at that crappie dig. You can tell it's a crappie by they got big wide head shakes as opposed to a bass his seem pretty quick. That's a big crappie. Oh, good golly, look at the size of that crappie. That's a big one. That's Beaver Lake at its finest right there. Woo, look at there. Wow, look at that for a crappie. Man, awesome Beaver Lake crappie. Right in the top of the mouth. I mean, that's a good crappie anywhere you go in the country, but for the Ozarks, man, what a fish. I came over the brush pile right there, so I just backed off, threw behind the boat, let it go down. They're right in the brush piles. Ooh, yeah, look at that one. Nice one. There we go. Oh, that's the kind we want right there. That's the kind we want. Hit spot lock. Oh man, look at that one pull. Good gosh. Is that a crappie? Oh my gosh. I don't think I can lift that fish in the boat.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, come on. Hey, come on.
Oh, no way. Oh, no.
I should have just lifted him.
Oh my God.
Did you see the size of that crappie?
Yeah, it was huge.
I knew better than that. You
Oh,
you
no.
can't lip a crappie. He'll come off. You need your net for those. I don't have my net on. Oh,
Oh no.
I should have just lifted him. I don't know. That was probably pushing a 2-pound crappie. You know, Beaver Lake, it's got some, that's crazy how good that crappie was. I knew better than that. Cause when they get, their mouths are so thin, when they get to sloshing around, you either need to get them in a net or just boat flip them. You know, when trying to lip a big one, I've done that more than once and lost them. I thought that was a bass, it was so big. It's probably a 15-inch crappie. That's big. There we go.
Is that a better one?
Yeah, I think that's a better one. I feel a pretty good head shake down there, I think. That or he's just mean. That's a keeper. There we go. Woo. A little keeper crappie on Beaver Lake. You want to catch one?
Sure, I don't care.
There's another rod down there. It's got a. There's one. That's a big one.
Oh boy.
That's crappie. It's a big one. Yeah. That's a big one. Yeah. Decent anyway. A lot of head shaking going on. Yeah. There we go. Another Beaver Lake keeper. Woo-hoo-hoo. Got him? There we go. You caught one. I want you to catch one.
That was a bass.
I could wear shorts out here today.
I always wear shorts under my sweats.
Got it? There you go. Keeper?
Feels a lot better than that bass.
That acts like a keeper.
Finally.
Oh,
A bass! Oh wait, no, it's not a bass.
Crappie, yeah. Woohoo!
Finally.
All right, good job, man.
Thank you.
They're a little specific on that cast, aren't they? I mean,
Yeah, they are.
it's a keeper, isn't it? 10-inch, isn't it?
Would you say 10 inches?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a 10-incher.
Oh yeah. Hot dog.
All right. He must have a speaker on it. There we go. Speaker on the outside of his car.
That looks like a better one.
Well, yeah, it's a keeper. I think it's a keeper. I'm telling you, right toward that truck.
Oh, they're coming down here.
It's a keeper. Go ahead. Like that. That's pretty funny. I like something I'd have had in high school. There we go.
I think we found them.
Got on one again. I don't think this is very big. But he's getting bigger. Maybe you just didn't know he was hooked. Yeah. My buddy used to have one of those things like that had a speaker on it, and he could talk through it, or he could play, you know, his little program thing. You played everything. He had a horn, a train horn on it, and he would park over there by the train tracks and turn his lights off when somebody went across the tracks. He'd flip his lights on and blow that horn.
Oh my gosh.
Which is evil. I mean, it gives somebody a heart attack, you know. Attaboy. Oh, there's a keeper. That looked like a big flash down there. Isn't it?
Yeah. Dig it.
Attaboy. Oh, yeah. He kicked kind of close to the boat, didn't he? All right, guys. Chandler and I had a good morning. Caught a lot of crappie real quick. We kind of want to show you the diversity of what Beaver Lake has to offer, you know, in December, in the fall out here. It'll be crappie fishing in the morning. We're fixing to put the crappie rods away. Going to pull the bass rods out. I'm going to pull a crankbait rod out. I got my Skirmish A10. It's crankbait season. Got a luge cranking stick, luge reel. So we got a great setup. Hopefully we'll catch some bass, show you guys some good bass being caught. But right now we're going to take a little lunch break, eat a sandwich, eat our Pringles. We'll be right back with you.
Alan Bland, Park Ranger with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. The Corps of Engineers is responsible for Beaver Dam. We started that dam in 1960, finished in 1966. We just celebrated our 50th anniversary last year. We put the dam in on the White River, and in this area the White River flowed north. That fools a lot of people that rivers don't flow north, but it does. So we put the dam up near Eureka Springs and finished that really in 66. So we started generating electricity then. We have 2 big generators, and the Congress authorized Beaver Dam for 3 reasons. For water supply, we have 4 water intake structures on the lake. 500,000 people now get their drinking water from Beaver Lake, and that's 1 out of every 7 person that lives in Arkansas gets their drinking water from that lake. The other reason Congress approved this was for flood control, and where we help control floods is by holding the water sometimes all summer in the spring so that it's not flooding on the Arkansas, the White, and the Mississippi rivers, so the farmers can get their crops in. And the third reason, is for hydroelectric power. So hydroelectric power, water supply, and flood control. That's the reason we put the dam in, and that's what we do. Now we manage 11 parks on the lake. Very, very busy out there. We manage the shoreline around the lake, which varies all the way around the lake, but a total of about 45 to 50,000 acres out there belongs to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, which in turn belongs to the public of the United States. Yeah, the fishing on Beaver Lake has gotten a lot better. It was really hot for about the first 20 years. Any lake is really good. In fact, Beaver Lake was on the cover of Outdoor Life magazine in, I think, 1968, because all the timber was still there, and we still have a lot of timber, and I mean, it was incredible, the fishing. It declined a little bit as the lake gets older. It does decline. But for the efforts of us and the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission with, like right now, what's going on with the Christmas trees, getting put back in the lake, and between us and them, putting them back in, just fish habitat, we've had pallets put out there, we've had artificial fish attractors put out there. The Game and Fish does an excellent job of tracking the fish in the lake. How are they doing? They sample them. What do they need to stock? What do we need to get back in there? We have a nursery pond now, where we didn't have. It's the largest nursery pond in Arkansas, over near Horseshoe Bend, 30 acres. And for the first 7 years, they did smallmouth. So now we have great smallmouth fisheries because of that. But like this year, I think they're going to put in crappie. And for several years, they've done crappie, they've done catfish, red ear, bluegill, you name it. That nursery pond has been one of the best assets to beaver. It's made fishing tremendous. So because of the nursery pond and then all the fish habitat in there and the good fishing regulations that everybody enforces, it's really made a comeback. So because of the habitat on the lake and how the rules have changed and that nursery pond, it has, almost doubled the fishing. We just hear great response every spring, every summer about how much better the fishing is.
All right, guys, we're going to transition into bass fishing, and the fall, December is one of my favorite times to throw a crankbait. I've got a Skirmish A10 here. It's in my signature color, bow-handed red. It's one of my favorite things to throw. When that water temperature gets in the 50s, it's one of the best baits on the market to throw. I got a loose cranking stick. That's the Marco's Ledge Series small crankbait rod. If you throw any type of wiggle warp bait, any type of Skirmish A10 type bait, that's the finest rod on the market to throw. So you got to have the right setup. I got a 6-to-1 reel on here, 6-3-to-1 reel. But we're going to target transition banks. You can see we've got a bluff bank here behind us. That's a really, really good spot to start in the fall and in the wintertime crankbait fishing. Start on the bluffs, but the main thing you want to key on those transition banks. That bluff transitions from a pea gravel into the ledge rock, maybe chunk rock, or even if you're going down a 45-degree chunk rock bank, and then it transitions into smaller rock, a lot of time any transition is a very good place to target. You know, one of the fallacies in bass fishing is when it gets cold in the winter that all the bass move out deep, and you see guys fishing deep. But just the opposite happens a lot of times. The fish really want to feed on crawfish, and so a crankbait like the Skirmish A10 is a big deal this time of year. And so sometimes you can target the bass deep, but I really encourage you to move shallow, especially following cold fronts in the winter. The fish move up shallow, the crawfish get up in those ledge rocks, and that's what makes that crankbait so good. So don't fall into where you think you have to fish deep in the wintertime, because that's not always true. A lot of time it's a good 1-2 punch here in the winter or the fall to keep a crankbait handy, keep a jig handy. I've got a little Bass X jig here, and I'm coming to a piece of wood, and so crankbait will come over the wood okay, but I want to get down in the piece of wood, so I'm going to pitch this jig into the wood. I like this bank for a crankbait, but I can't get the right angle coming in this way, so that's when a lot of times I'll hop a jig down it when I can't get the right angle on the crankbait. Throwing that crankbait straight into the bank and straight back out, it's just, you're only in the strike zone for two cranks. And the main thing is to keep that crankbait, that jig, whatever, in the strike zone the longest. Want to make that jig act like a little crawfish, just hopping down the rocks, hop, hop. And where he should be, the sun's facing this way. If there's a fish on this tree, he should be right there on the shady side of it. There's one. Oh boy. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, we got a big one now. No, he's not a very good one. Cranking, little cranking fish. Finally got back in the creek. Woohoo! I'm not even sure what that is. Spotted bass or a, it looks like a mix between a spotted bass and looks like a mean mouth. We got a major weather front coming in. We got big time rain storms coming at us. We're going to get out of here, head for shelter, and we'll continue this another day. We're back out here after the weather break. Let's get started again. We had to kind of have a new day out here to get started. We kind of got crushed by some weather last time, so we're fixing to get started. We got a water temperature about 47, 48 degrees. It ought to be picture perfect crankbait fishing, so we're gonna go back at it and see what happens. I think I've got a jig tied. I'm gonna pitch a jig around some of this wood a little bit. They've got to be either on a crankbait, a jerkbait, or a jig. I mean, that's just this time of year. That's just what they're, you know, one of those three baits at that water temperature. Unless you want to throw an Alabama rig, which I don't have with me. There's one. There we go. Finally got to come off that rock. Man, he ate that good. All right, we got a little bass up here. All right. Oh gosh. Oh, nice bass. There we go. Hit the spot lock. Anchor is right here. All right. There we go. It's good Beaver Lake bass. Nice keeper bass for Beaver Lake. He loves something about when that water gets below 55 degrees, they love that red crankbait. So I hit a rock, ticked, I felt it come off the rock, and ooh, I just felt him grab it and get really kind of mushy feeling. That's a good feeling when you feel them moving their head back and forth. So nice Beaver Lake bass. You know, I picked up a jerkbait when I come down this bank here. I saw some brush in the water. The way that brush sticks out, I can't get my crankbait through that quite as good. I like to work over the top of it deeper with a jerkbait first, and then I'll pick the crankbait up and work through the log. The jerkbait works good on the outside of the brush. And sometimes when you make a few casts like that, you may want to pitch a jig and get right in the brush. Sometimes the fish are right up in the brush where you can't reach with a jerkbait or a crankbait, so you want to pitch a jig right in the brush. Especially in a low water situation like we're here in the wintertime at Beaver Lake, late fall, early winter, late winter, when the water's drawn down, the only thing in the water is some of the end of these trees. And so a lot of times your fish will actually stay shallow right around some of that timber. Because I believe there's a portion of the fish that never really go deep. They want to, there's a portion of the largemouth especially lives shallow almost all year long. Old rule of thumb is when the lake is falling or you have a low water situation, that as it falls, you know, it kind of points the fish out, and the fish kind of, a lot of fish will migrate to the points as the water falls. They like to get around these isolated standing trees on gravel banks. Like if I'm fishing standing timber, I'm not really looking for that chunk rock stuff when I'm fishing standing timber. I'm wanting gravelly, pea gravelly banks with standing timber on it. There's a big one. Oh my gosh.
You have a net or anything?
Nope. That's a giant bass right there. Don't come off. Don't come off, please. Don't come off. Wow. This is a big Beaver Lake bass here, guys. Oh. Woo. Well, I switched over from I was throwing my skirmish A10 jerkbait, and I thought, you know, there's some standing timber out here off the bank, so I picked up the jerkbait. I was throwing a crankbait, picked up the jerkbait, and you know, when it sometimes they want isolated vertical cover this time of year when it gets really cold, and you can tell that bass wanted that. That is a giant Beaver Lake bass. That's probably a 5-pounder, and look right where that jerkbait stuck, right where it's supposed to be, right in the top of his mouth. So that tells you when he hits it head first, he wants that bait. So awesome fish, guys. That was awesome. Duh, anyway. There he is right there, good one. All right. Well, he's not as big as I thought he was. There we go. All right. Another good keeper bass. There we go. Switch back over, got on the ledgy stuff, pick back up the A10. The Bohannon red color. You can't beat it, man. You can't beat it. Beautiful Beaver Lake bass. Mwah! You know, sometimes when you're out here fishing, you're trying to concentrate on a certain bank or a certain type of bank, certain type of rock. But when the wind starts blowing in a Clearwater lake, it's better to fish just wherever the wind's blowing. Sometimes it's a chunk rock bank, sometimes it might be pea gravel, but the fish really like to feed in the wind on a Clearwater lake. There's another one. See, we're on this windy bank now. The fish are pulled up here, and they're feeding on this windy bank. Another good largemouth. There we go. Do you think they like my crankbait or what? It's awesome. Keeper bass. He's kind of yellow. All right, go grow up on us, little buddy. I want to go over this piece of trash right on the bank. I just can't stand to have trash along the bank, so I'm going to go over and pick up a piece of trash. We always want to leave it cleaner than when we got here. If that was a piece of paper, it wouldn't bother me, but that's a piece of styrofoam. It'll be there for years and years and years and years. So we'll just pick it up and throw it in the trash. Put it here in our cooler, get rid of it. Fixing to get around to this windy side and catch a big one. That's what's fixing to happen. There we go. Yep. Oh my gosh. Another big one. Oh yeah. Woo, another big one. Man, I tell you, that's the value of getting in the wind. When you got to get in the wind. We've been on that kind of that calmer side. It's nice and comfortable over there. With Beaver Lake, you've got to get in the wind when you're crankbait fishing. Got to be a fish right here. That transition where it goes from that shelfy stuff to that gravel or that kind of rocky bank, there ought to be a bass there. I don't know what it is about a transition bank, but they like them. Never have really understood what makes a fish get around a transition, but I just know that's where they like to live when it's cold. There's a good one. There's a big one. Another big one. Oh man, that is a heavy fish. Woo, wow. Oh, I'm hooked on my microphone. Wow, look at that fish. Wow. Fat. Man, what a beautiful fish. Crankbait fishing, Beaver Lake, wintertime, it doesn't get much better than that. Man, love it. Love that little red crankbait.